welcome back to my channel. Today I have Zoya's Party Girls collection. I received this from Zoya in exchange for a review. I am on Zoya's PR list. If you didn't know that, I just wanted to make that very clear. However, that does not change my opinions about things. This is a 12-piece collection. Zoya typically runs for $10 a bottle. That's when a sale is not going on. However, I would suggest that if you are interested in trying Zoya or buying Zoya, to just wait until they have sales on their website. They do them quite a bit, but at this point I think it would be a good idea to wait until the Black Friday sales, because last year they did a 70% off site-wide and so many people got a lot of polishes. So at this point I think it might be good to just hold out. But anyways, I'm just gonna go ahead and get started with the review because there are 12 polishes here. The first one is Nadia. Nadia is an amber colored topper, technically a topper. I did try to get this opaque at 3 coats, and while I think it looked just fine, if you were to really look at it, you can see nail line. So if you wanted this to be fully opaque, I would say it probably needs a 4th. The formula on this was fairly thin, but that's kind of to be expected. I went into this thinking that this was just a polish, but it is actually, Zoya does actually consider it to be a topper, and I think the formula just aligns with that. Next up we have Solstice. So I've had a difficult time deciding how I want to describe this. I think this is probably more of an orange based red with a ton of gold flecks in there, which makes it into a very interesting color. You can see the flecks on your nail. I was able to get this one opaque in 2 coats. I like to do a thinner first coat and then go in with a thicker second coat. This avoids the flooding around the cuticles, but I think if you really wanted to, you could push it to be a 1-coat polish. Next up is Tawny. Tawny is actually very similar to Nadia, but this is not actually considered a topper. We have a cranberry base with a ton of gold flecks in there as well. It ends up turning into more of this kind of Dr. Pepper color, but it has a beautiful formula, and this one you can actually get opaque in 2 coats. Next one is an absolute beauty, and that is Ming. Ming is like your Hollywood classic red. This does have a jelly-like formula, so at 2 coats you don't get full opacity, but it's still very beautiful. For those who are particular, I would say go ahead and apply a 3rd one, but I thought it looked really good at 2 coats, and like most Zoya polishes, this one does dry glossy. Next up is Fallon, and Fallon actually reminds me of like silky, like a silky, sexy kind of vampy pink. There's something, I don't know, there's just something kind of sexy about it. That's kind of weird coming out of my mouth, not gonna lie, but this is beautiful. There is a lot of shimmer in this. You can make out some streaks, so I would be careful in either your application or maybe just go ahead and sponge on your last coat. You can get this opaque in 2 coats. The formula, while on the thinner side, is still manageable, and like I said, you can get it opaque in 2 coats. Next up is Sheri or Cherie. I suppose it depends on how you spell those names, but this is another red. This is another blue based red, but it is darker. In the bottle it does look like a blood red. The formula is very reminiscent of Ming. It has a jelly-like formula, so at 2 coats you can make out nail line, but once again, just go ahead and apply a 3rd coat and you're good to go. Next up is Kelsey. Kelsey has just your standard kind of Zoya cream formula. It's opaque in 1 to 2 coats. I did do 2 coats. When I saw Kelsey, I was immediately thinking of Birdie from the Wanderlust collection, so I went ahead and I compared those 2 for you. I'm gonna say you probably don't need both. Birdie is just ever so slightly lighter, but if you are a pink lover, of course you need them both. But they're both 1 to 2 coaters. Next up is Danielle. So Danielle does remind me a lot of Sally Hansen's Pacific Blue, but in no way, shape, or form do I think that this is a substitute or an alternative for the original Pacific Blue. This one, you can see that it, you know, without comparing it side by side to any polish really, that there is a lot of purple in here. This is this has your standard Zoya cream formula, and it, you know, it's opaque in 1 to 2 coats. I went ahead and just did 2 though. Next up is Isadora. Isadora has a berry base, but there's some type of shift going on. If you are a lover of Orly's Beautifully Bizarre, how it has that subtle kind of unexpected color in the shift, I think you might like Isadora. This is a beautiful polish. You can see some streaks, so be careful careful in your application. Like I said with Fallon, you might want to sponge this one on as well, but I was able to get this opaque in 2 coats. Next up is Landon. Landon is a cool tone purple. I think that Landon is actually darker than your classic purple. It does have your standard Zoya cream formula though. It's opaque in 1 to 2 coats. Landon actually reminded me of Lois from the Wanderlust collection, but as you can tell, Lois is much lighter. So in this case, I can justify having both. Next up is Delaney. So Delaney in the bottle looks like a purple oil slick polish, which we all know my feelings about that. I'm not a fan of it. However, when you get it on the nail, you don't get that type of shift. You don't get that duo or multi-chrome kind of shift. What you do get though is when you look at Delaney in the bottle, the purple that you see on the flat side of the bottle is actually the purple that you get on your nail and nothing more. This does have a thinner formula, so I went in with a thinner first coat and just went in with a thicker second. I do that because I don't want to flood my cuticles in that first coat, and once that first coat dries, it kind of grips onto the second coat. So that's how I would suggest that you apply it, but this one for me was a 2-coat polish. And the last one is Blake. Blake is a very dark polish with gold in there. Now in the bottle, I thought it was purple at first, but once you open it up and you apply that first coat, it is actually a very dark blue base with gold shimmer. This one I felt like was going to be my favorite because the combination of those colors is it's just absolutely gorgeous. However, when you get Blake on the nail and you apply that second coat, you're kind of left with just dark nails. So this one, while it's very beautiful in the bottle, the shimmer just doesn't translate to the nail. Even out in daylight, direct sunlight, I felt like it still looked really dark and I was having to look very closely at my nails to make out that gold shimmer. But either way, this is a beautiful polish and it can get opaque in 2 coats. So those are my thoughts. Go ahead and let me know what your favorites are. Let me know which one you plan on picking up. Honestly, I think everybody needs a Ming in their collection, and if you don't have a Ming in your collection, you need to get this Ming. It's just beautiful. It's so beautiful. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I will see you in the next one. Bye.